Let me begin this with the prefatory statement, the prolegomenon, the précis, the proem, the introductory, the before we begin. I have nothing but the greatest respect for, as I've said, Messrs. Rogan and, in this case, Tucker Carlson, for giving us the chance to really sit back and think and to consider subjects that, for the most part, have not been discussed on a regular platform for a variety of reasons, for whatever, for reasons that may or may not make sense. I I don't know. And it's wonderful that so much time has been allowed for long form discussions. Joe Rogan and Lex Friedman are two of my favorite, absolute favorite contributors to this new and incredibly fascinating platform of deep thinking. Deep thinking, thinking in subjects that, and deep thinking. I don't mean to make that sound like it's too complicated to understand, but something that is beneath the usual synthetic unicellular level of most discussion that we have today. So God bless him for that. Tucker Carlson, when allowed to opine, please don't take this the wrong way, is full of shit at times, because he is too into being himself. He's too into being Tucker and not into the thought. Not into the thought. It's about being him. I've said this before and I'm saying this again, and I know what I'm talking about. He is settling down. Watch Joe Rogan. His attitude is one of, go ahead. Please continue. He's smart enough to realize, I think it comes from his maybe his pugilistic background, where he's able to let the opponent kind of, what am I trying to say? Kind of wear himself out, to use the term from professional wrestling, to blow up. You know, where you just let him exert all this energy. And when Tucker is grasping, so, and this is, of course, my independent thought that I invite you to disagree with. But he's searching for a lot of things. Whenever you're bounced from something as big as Fox, it hurts you. There's no way around it. There is no way around it. There is no way that anybody can. When you find yourself, you realize, wow, I'm not bulletproof. I'm not indispensable. Joe, to an extent, learned it when they tried to go after him with that nonsense with, Neil Young and the whole COVID business and all that kind of jazz. But what's very interesting to know is that Tucker, he's been everything over the years. A lefty, a conservative. Is he more of a, dare I say, a latitudinarian? A free thinker? Is he? I don't know. And you can tell he's grasping deliberately to look for something spiritual. He loves the Manichaean concept of good versus evil. He loves this left and right, that it's binary. It's good or it's evil. No, not really. He loves that theme. It's a wonderful theme. He digs it so much. He loves this idea. And look, and that's fine. So I want to look at this particular instance and a subject which is two subjects which I think are well, great sources of awe to me, truly awesome, awesome, where you really feel gobsmacked, overwhelmed with the immense, gigantic, Brobdingnagian immensity of something. It's just two things: UFOs, EBEs, UAPs, whatever you call them, extraterrestrials, and artificial intelligence, AGI. Those are the two. Those are the ones where it's like I get high thinking about it. Okay, I get high thinking about it. Now let's start off with this piece, shall we? This is Mr. Carlson speaking of, and I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to start and stop and give you my thoughts as we develop this. And I want you to listen very carefully as to what he says. And it's good because it inspires us to think along with him.
Only like advanced civilizations ignore that. Lying is bad. And so if you have lying at scale, which we have on this topic, it's inherently bad. Okay.
Now let me stop right there. I know he doesn't mean this, and I know I'm making too much out of this, and I know we haven't even gotten into this stuff. I don't want to argue about lying, but lying, in one of the best definitions I've ever heard in a court case involving prosecutorial misconduct, was lying is the misrepresentation of fact with the intent to deceive, but deceive in a bad way. Not deceive by saying, "Oh no, you're a good singer," or "No, Grandma, this pot roast is great." That's like sparing feelings, but it's technically lying. Lying, there are shades of lying, and there are some times when the government lies to keep secrets secret, especially those of national security, whatever that means. And there's also lying when we steal from the enemy. I'm sorry to say this, you may not like this, I'm in many cases a moral relativist. I do not believe in apodictic, left and right, right versus wrong, up and down, black and white, Manichaean. I'm not. There are very, very few things. There's malum prohibitum and malum in se, and very few mala in se.
So that's the first level. The deeper level is so if they're spiritual beings, which I believe they are.
Now stop right there. We're talking about UFOs, UAPs, extraterrestrials. Spiritual, of or relating to spirits, as opposed to somatic, real skin and bone and eyes and brain. And I am not a spiritual thing. I mean, I might have a spiritual component to my personality, but I'm a very real, corporeal, actual thing. I'm not, and I think they are as well.
Like it's a binary. They're either, you're on team good or team bad. You can.
No, you see this again? Apodictic, absolute, right or wrong, lying or not. You see the way it works? Very simple. Talk about binary. It's almost a sophomorically dualistic, I guess, if you had to come up with something kind of highfalutin.
Assign any name to it you want, but like, what are these things? Are they good or bad?
Neither. Again, good or bad. Are humans good? Well, ask a chicken at a Purdue processing plant whether we're good or bad. Ask the individuals of Hiroshima or Nagasaki whether Americans or humans are good. You see what you see what I'm talking about here? It might be moral relativism to an extent, but it's you're missing the complexity of this, sir.
And I think some of them are bad.
Now, why would you think they're bad? Could be relative to, look, this is something which we get into that Greer, Dr. Greer thing. His version of this is, if these critters look upon us the way we look upon species that we don't know, it would not surprise me if they would want to experiment on us. Experimentation which could be dangerous, problematic, painful, excruciating, embarrassing. Look what we do to animals. First thing we do is we try to corral them, pen them, kill them, neuter them, blast them with antibiotics, blast them with growth hormones, skin them, cut them, butcher them, fillet them, saute them, tan them, wear them. So again, are we evil? Is this just what superiority does? Is this just a natural thing? When you catch something, you wanna see how it works. You don't really care about maintaining its dignity. Again, his world is so simple.
And if the U.S. government knows that, or elements, the people within the U.S. government know that, then they're serving a bad force. And
now, and I know, and maybe Tucker doesn't. There is no such thing as the U.S. government. Most of the people who know the really good stuff, the important stuff, are not part of the government. Is Facebook a part of the government? I would say it's a proxy. I would say it's an agent, absolutely, but it's not. It's not a member of the government, but it acts as an agent of the government. Sure, I would venture to say that there are things that not even the president of the United States knows. Levels of top secret maintained by the military-industrial complex, aerospace industry, that maybe 2-3 people know tops. So when you say the government, do you think NASA runs this? Don't forget the gatekeepers like Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson. And that schmuck, I think we finally got rid of, Mr. Bowtie, the science guy. These were nothing but gatekeepers, dissuading you, pushing you away from any serious inquiry into extraterrestrial, interstellar life.
Well, when you
think
say
about that for a minute.
spiritual, like what makes you draw that conclusion that they're
Good job.
spiritual?
What's the obvious? I mean, spiritual may be the wrong word. Supernatural. They're beyond nature as we understand it.
No. Supernatural might be, ESPN. No, these are real things, real, actual, again, corporeal things that fly around. You might see an iteration of it, that you might see an orb or like a robot version of it, some drone, some AI version of something where, what you see is not, feeling or again, I keep saying corporeal, physical, but supernatural, no.
I mean, obviously they are. I mean, just chart their physical behavior. It doesn't, it goes outside of what we understand about physics.
No, not really. No. Eric Weinstein is extremely important to discuss. See, he brought up a very good point. Physicists should be talking about physics and what's beyond physics, not us. I'm not going to throw around the word wormhole and Einstein, time dilation, space time. That doesn't qualify at all. So how do we know that it goes beyond physics? You need a physicist to determine that.
No visible means of propulsion, coming at indescribable speed, hitting the ocean, continuing at speeds that are impossible under.
Now, again, you mean you don't understand it. You don't understand it. Think about this. Let me give you an idea. The Earth is what, 4.5 billion years? Work with me on this. Let's just assume. So it's 4,500 million years, right? Okay. So let's say there was another planet or something, a Goldilocks kind of planet, or within the Goldilocks era, that was 4,501 million years. That means it's 1 million years older than us. Now think about that. Yeah, it has a jump on us. From 1903 or 5, whatever, whenever the Kitty Hawk thing was, until 1969, landing on the moon, that's just, what, 66 years? From Kitty Hawk until landing on the moon. I know what you're thinking, but just work with me on this. If that can be the level of progress, imagine what a planet that is a million years beyond us can do.
See, I mean, in other words, if I take a 9mm round, 7.62 by 39, and shoot you at 50 yards underwater in a swimming pool, and it's even more intense in salt water because it's denser, you could catch the bullet if it even makes it to you, right? So if you have a craft, any object underwater that's traveling at 500 knots as measured by sonar, right there, you're challenging our understanding of physics. Like, what is that? How can that be?
No, it's not challenging. Well, it is. It is. It's challenging your level of physics. And right, it doesn't seem to in any way comply, comport, or jibe with what we are used to. That's true.
So yeah,
They've tracked that. They've tracked things going 500 knots under the sea.
yeah, really, yeah, much faster than any object can actually go under sea. Yo, for sure.
Now, I think Joe's onto something there. Maybe you can, in the comment section, 500 miles an hour underwater, anything could be. What do I know? Well, what do I know?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on underwater, and a lot. And there's
See, Tucker's caught there. Tucker's thought. See, Joe's listening, and Tucker's thinking like, "Oh shit, oh shit."
video of these things coming out of the sky into the water and also emerging from the water.
Right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're going.
So-
It's all so blurry though.
I don't think it's
the
that
transmedium video.
Yeah, I don't think some of it's that blurry. I think some of it's crystal clear.
We just don't have access to it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Just we haven't
Good,
seen
Joe.
it. So they have some stuff.
For sure. So, but there's just a lot going on underwater, and it's measured. And so, whatever. I mean, these are all, again, this is like the most obvious observable level of it. But then you just ask yourself, like, what is this actually?
Well, he's just asking the question that somebody asks when you don't know what's going on. You see, Tucker for the longest time, I think, is used to talking to people. See, and also let me say, Joe Rogan's you talk about a sandbagger. You look at him, he goes, he knows so much about a lot. Don't let him fool you.
And, if there's been extensive knowledge of this for decades, like maybe 80 years at least, if not going back to the 30s, 90 years, to what end? So there are two possible explanations, obvious explanations. The first is the one you often hear, which is this is so heavy that if the public were to know about it, it would be just disruptive. It'd be
No, see, that's one of the ones. This is a thought that has been said that people repeat. Nothing is disruptive. Nothing. Nobody does anything. We're not going to run into the streets and go, I can't believe it. There's another force, No. So, I mean, I'm blaming Tucker. That stuff, that's what we say, but it's not true.
too scary. Like, you don't want to scare people for no good reason.
They're not going to be scared. Nobody's afraid. Nobody. Americans are too. America in particular. I nothing scares us. Nothing. We kind of got a little goofy with an earthquake, but that didn't really scare anybody. That just titillated us.
Something we can do about it. And you also don't want to suggest that, the U.S. military isn't capable of protecting the country, the homeland.
Nobody's thinking that one. Again, that's what you are told to give as reasons. Number one, the government doesn't want to realize or make you realize it's not really in control of what's going on. In fact, that's one of the reasons why J. Edgar Hoover, they say, allowed or quashed the notion of the mafia and stuck to communism, because how is it that the head of the national police force doesn't know about the mafia? So you can't allow the government to not know what's going on. And No.
And it does suggest that. If you can't control these objects in your airspace, and that's known, if they can't, that's known, okay, then that suggests a limit to the power of the U.S. military, and you don't want to tell people that because then they won't believe that they're safe. I get it.
I don't. But go ahead.
But then there's a deeper level, which is
here we go. Deep.
Okay, what's your relationship with these things? What is the U.S. government's relationship with these things?
Again, the government.
And there's evidence that there is a relationship.
Isn't it something how he always thinks like there's the government? And I think in Tucker's mind, he thinks there's Washington, and he thinks the Pentagon, and he thinks, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he kind of thinks like that. And he thinks that there's the government, and then there's the civilian side, and then there's corporate, and it'd be nice if that were true.
And that it's a longstanding. Maybe. And that raises a lot of questions about intent. And so what is that? And I just personally decided, and people have been hurt by these things. That's a fact. That's a fact.
It's a fact?
It's a knowable fact. It's a provable fact.
How is that?
And killed. And I'm not saying millions of people have been killed by whatever these things are, but people have been killed, and it's known because it's working its way through the courts.
No, he's probably right. I think there's been a lot to the notion of abduction. I think there's a lot that needs to be looked at in terms of that. John Mack, Barney and Betty Hill, and I understand that, but it's not known, and it's not an absolute truth. And there are a number of litigation cases that, as a lawyer, it may very well be true, but I don't think that's necessarily proof of anything.
The VA. So, I don't know, an object that is by definition supernatural. It's above the laws of nature as we understand them.
No, if it's doing something, it's complying with nature. Flying, people who mastered Bernoulli's theorem and used, a plane, countering the fluid of air, it was not supernatural. It merely conquered or harnessed a very real and very natural fact.
And that has resulted in the deaths of people.
Again, unproved.
But we don't spend enough time thinking about what that adds up to. Not good, actually. Not good.
Maybe.
How many people do you think have died from these things?
I don't know, but And
is it radiation sickness? Is it what's the cause
So the person that I talked to, I interviewed someone who was a Stanford medical school professor who's out there and worth talking to, by the way. And
you're talking about Gary Nolan?
That's exactly who I'm talking about. He was effectively an expert witness in these cases, so he's an expert in brain injury. Do you know him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Entirely credible person. Checks all the boxes that I care about. He's got patents, so he's like a lot of Stanford University professors. He's independently rich. He flew to. I live in a remote.
He's independently rich. That means something. He's rich, so that's it's got to mean something, right? You don't have money unless you're legit, right?
Place, and he flew to my place at his own expense because he wanted to tell his story. So he's got no profit motive here. He's the most highly credentialed person at the university, practically, at Stanford Medical School.
Could be.
We consider that a big deal. And he's worked on this for over 10 years, assessing the injuries to U.S. servicemen from being in close proximity to these objects or having.
Well, now, okay. Maybe I want to see. I really am interested in this. I want to know how he has assessed these things. And by the way, for lack of a better word, I'm a believer, providing there's evidence of something to believe in.
Contact with these objects. And his conclusion, as you know, because you've talked to him, is that there's some kind of energy coming off here that scrambles people's brains or kills them. And it's not exactly radiation, at least in his telling to me. So anyway, but the point is, people have died.
Yeah.
And
maybe Joe's.
So,
Joe's not convinced.
It does raise a lot of questions about what the hell, right? What the hell? American citizens have died and you're hiding it? Why are you hiding that? Why would you?
Okay. It's very good. Okay. Look. This is fascinating, and we need to get to the bottom. Let me throw one thing at you, which is really going to freak people out, which nobody thinks about too often, but should. The Vatican is a lot more, dare I say, scientifically progressive than one would think. And years ago, I think it was the Vatican astronomer said that it is not in any way contrary to Catholic ideology or the like for there to be a belief in extraterrestrial, whatever this thing is. It is in no way contrary to Catholic ideology and theology and the like. The issue is if we can say, yes, there are these people, are they born without original sin? That's the issue. Imagine this. Hey, Joel Osteen. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Christian. Hey, all of you great folks, born again Christians, accepting Jesus Christ as your personal savior, abnegating the worldly, trying to ask for redemption and to be born again so that you can enjoy this because you're in essence born a sinner. What if there are other planets, other systems that don't enjoy this? What if we are the only people or things that were born with original sin that need forgiveness? That's number one. And number two, if that's true, do you mean that Jesus only came here? That there were, are there other planets that have liquid water and, within the Goldilocks era that are sinners and vile and murderers and rapists and killers and abductors that we are, who can kill each other in war and sin? And if not, do you mean that Jesus just came here? When you have trillions of galaxies and trillions of suns and trillions of planets and and he came here, one. That could very well call into question the story, the veracity, the likelihood of Christianity and others as well. That's what's going to cause people to run into the streets, as you say. That's it. Not the fact that the government's not able to protect. Government doesn't protect. The government can't even protect our borders. We're used to that. Think about what I'm telling you. That's the issue. What if we met these and they were not only superior to us in terms of technology, but morally superior? Who looked at us and said, what's the matter with you? You treat children like this? You treat animals like this? Each other like this? You're vile. You're horrid. That's what gets me. Nobody's going to be running into the street because we're too fat and lazy to run in the street. But in terms of causing this psychic tumult, that's it. So again, with all due respect, Tucker makes me think. He makes me assess what I believe in. He really does. It's very, very good. And Joe ain't buying any of it. That's why I love Joe Rogan. All right, dear friends, thanks for that. 29 minutes of that. Thanks for staying with me. I appreciate it. Please like what I did. I know that sounds so pathetic, but it is. I have to say that. Please subscribe to the channel. Please make sure you hit the little bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos. And whatever you do, I beg of you, I ask, I entreat, I ask you most sincerely to comment in the appended section. Comment as you see fit.